Good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11 Alive Storm Trackers, along with Wes Peary in the Stormtracker Center and Ryan Kruger in the elements right now on St. Simon's Island. We're going to be going live to him in just a second. We want to let you know what is happening right now with Hurricane Dorian as we are feeling the impacts along the Georgia coastline from this system as it moves through. Let me give you a breakdown of what we're watching right now, and then I'm going to get to Ryan Kruger in just a second. Here's a look at the storm. You can see the center of the storm right here as it is moving up toward the northwest, and it's about 100 miles off the coast right now, just to the east of Jacksonville, just a little bit more than 100 miles off the coast. Now remember, that is the center of the storm that is located there, but the actual impacts of the storm are moving into the Florida coastline. Those tropical storm force winds extend around 175 miles out from the center of the storm, and as you can see, we are feeling those impacts here along the Georgia coastline as well, with the rain and the wind that is now moving into the area from St. Mary's, Brunswick on up toward the Savannah area as well. Let me give you a quick look at those winds right now. You can see here near Brunswick about 21-mile-an-hour winds, 22-mile-an-hour winds at another reporting station there. We've got some buoys reporting 47-mile-an-hour winds just off the coast. And then up towards Savannah, we have 24-mile-an-hour winds at the Hunter Air Force, about 16-mile-an-hour winds there as well. I'm going to show you the track of this storm in just a second, but first let me take you to Ryan Kruger. We're talking about these winds along the coastline. You are experiencing those firsthand, Ryan. Tell us what it's like there.
Yeah, so really it depends on whenever we get a band, Chris. So like right now we have a little bit of rain. It'll be dry for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get some more wind and rain coming in. Here's the biggest thing we're seeing right now are really these big waves. Now this is just on this part of the island. To kind of paint a picture for you, we're right next to King and Prince. So if you come down to St. Simon's a lot, you probably know this part of the island. Over by the pier, the village area, right when you get onto the island, the waves are a lot calmer over there. They did close the pier not long ago, maybe about a couple hours ago. There were a lot of people out trying to enjoy the sights, but local officials, police decided it was probably too dangerous to have people there, so they closed that. This is public access of the beach that's right here. So normally what you would see during low tide is past these boulders, that's actually the sand. That's the beach that people come here to enjoy. Since we're not at high tide was about 1 o'clock, so it's a little bit lower than it was about an hour ago, but the waves certainly crashing in really heavy here. Wind has not been too bad. You'll get some gusts. I think that's probably the biggest concern is you'll be standing here thinking you're fine, and then you'll feel one of those really strong wind gusts that comes at you, and you really need to make sure that you've got solid footing. We're kind of feeling one of those strong wind gusts right now. That's kind of the main danger, I think, that people have here. Now, the good thing is not really seeing any downed trees yet, not seeing any kind of big flooding on the roadways. About an hour ago when we were in high tide, you did see in some of the lower lying areas some water on the road, but that has since receded a little bit. You see that people are out though. They're enjoying themselves, trying to get out and take pictures and enjoy themselves out on the road. There's actually a house that's right here, and there are people who are here on vacation, and they've got a terrific view for themselves right here, and hopefully they'll be able to stay safe where they're at. Certainly a strong, sturdy house, so they should be okay. We did see people out surfing a couple hours ago. That was certainly dangerous. I think those people have all gone inside, thankfully, for the good part. You know, every time you come to one of these, you'll always see some daredevils out trying to have fun, and that's good and all, but it is certainly dangerous for the people that are out there. Water
Ryan,
that's been coming up,
Ryan,
so this is kind of the concern that everyone has.
Show us that house again, because
Go ahead, Chris.
That water was coming already right up to the house, and this isn't even the worst of the storm.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Tyson, they want to see this house right here. And yeah, you'll see the water is actually coming up. I'm seeing probably during high tide, you see there's some debris right there on the little porch. So during high tide, there was definitely the water that was coming there. Now there is a public access street that's right next to it. There is no water on that street right now, aside from, you know, the water from the rainfall that is there. So the water has not gone up there. When I was talking to some public officials earlier, some public safety people, whenever we were looking at our watch and we realized, okay, high tide was scheduled to be a little after 1 o'clock this afternoon, and so they were thankful that that should be the highest high tide during the day. But yeah, as it goes on, there's certainly a concern about the water that's going to be coming up. Let's take a look here about the beach now. usually right here at these rocks, this is supposed to protect the water from coming up. But when you have waves this strong and waves this high, they're just going to crash right over those rocks and come right above it. If you've never been here, you'll notice there's a deck right here, and the deck is actually halfway through the steps. It's covered with water. During low tide, and obviously not during any kind of storm, that deck goes right down to the sand, and you can go down and enjoy the beach. Well, you can't even see the beach today. It has been covered by the water. Thankfully, though, this deck is in good condition. It is not, at least part of it is out of the water. But yeah, that water's really, really high. So this will be something to keep in mind. Oh, here we go. And right as I said that the water wasn't on the deck, the water crashes right up onto the deck. But the good news is that everyone is being safe so far.
All right.
Yes.
Ryan,
yes.
Hey, I want to go to Wes right now. Wes has queried one of the storm reports out of St. Simons where you are right now. Wes, what does that show?
Yeah, we have a couple of reports here, mainly of a tree down and damage down. Kind of depends where you're at. St. Simons report of a pine tree fell over one of the roads there, and that's probably the combination of the winds picking up and then those bands kind of lashing over and over again. This wind report may not have actually been from the storm constantly battering, but from those bands, again, that will just bring these bursts of strong wind gusts, and that's about the strongest wind gusts that we have seen, not from the storm itself, but from those little storm bands. Another one not too far away, just down the road in Brunswick, that was actually a little worse. It's like a restaurant sign fell onto an SUV, the intersection there. So that was a very, very dangerous situation. And the wind speeds, of course, are only going to begin to increase from here on out, Chris.
All right. And while we are on right now, we're monitoring your questions and comments that we have on Facebook Live. So if you have any questions for Wes or me or for Ryan, let us know, and we're looking at these. Meanwhile, let me show you the latest track that we have on the storm right now. This is based on the 2 o'clock advisory that came in, just less than an hour ago. Maximum sustained winds are still at 105 miles an hour with gusts up to 125 miles an hour. It's moving north-northwest at 9 miles an hour. So as I mentioned, it's about more than 100 miles to the east of Jacksonville. That's where you see the center of the storm. So we think by tonight it'll still be a Category 2 storm with maximum sustained winds at 105 miles an hour. It's moving that north-northwest track, and we're expecting it to move more north and then start to take a northeasterly turn. That is going to be very important for the folks along the Georgia coastline, because the closer the center of the storm gets to the coast, then that is going to increase the impacts that they're going to be feeling there. As of now, it looks like this is going to still be a Category 2 at 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. So this is the time frame here for our coast from now until the overnight hours tonight and into tomorrow morning. Then it starts moving up towards South Carolina. This center point is getting really close to the South Carolina coast. I do think that they will feel some hurricane force winds along the South Carolina coast and then also along the North Carolina coast. Then by Saturday morning, this is way up to the north as a Category 1, and then it falls apart as it continues moving to that direction as well. Take a look at this. This is the satellite view of this storm, and you can see how, the eye was really tight and defined when it was over the Bahamas. It kind of is a little bigger now, kind of more wobbly, and that's just showing those signs that it's not quite as strong as it was just a little bit earlier here as it was moving over the Bahamas, but now moving up this direction here at the top of your screen. Here's a look at the wave heights that we have. Now, we're going to see some big-time waves and strong storm surge along the coastline. In fact, let me show you. Let's go back to Ryan while I get this map ready there. Ryan, we've got those wave heights that we are forecasting to be very large there today. You're already seeing some of those now, and as you know, those are only going to get bigger as the storm gets closer.
Oh, yeah, and especially on this part of the island. I was talking with some county officials when we got here, because we noticed in the pier, the village, that area when you first, you drive past the causeway, you get onto St. Simons, and there's that village right there, which is where a lot of tourists go. And we noticed the waves weren't as large there, and the longtime locals were saying that this section of the island right by the King and Prince, this is the area that historically always has the largest waves, even when we're not dealing with any kind of tropical system. And so, yeah, right now, these are definitely some big waves. Now, obviously, this is the Atlantic, so you are going to have larger waves here typically than you would over in the Gulf Coast. But yeah, we are seeing some large waves, and the water is really just crashing right up. And so the biggest concern that they're going to have here is if this water just continues to go up and starts to flood, especially some of these first couple of streets that are here. The good news is that the causeway, the FJ Torres Causeway, it's the only way on and off St. Simons. No plan right now to close it. They're going to try to keep that open as long as they can, so that way nobody gets cut off. The reason why they wanted everybody to evacuate is because if that causeway ends up closing because it gets flooded, the way it works is that if water even touches the bottom of the bridge, GDOT has to come out and inspect the bridge before it can reopen and make sure it's safe, which means that basically the entire island is cut off. So if something happens to you, if you're here and you didn't evacuate, even though it may not be a landfalling hurricane, you could have trees that fall down. Well, if you have a tree that falls down onto your house and the bridge is closed, there's not much that the safety officials can do to be able to come get you. Trees, that's going to be the biggest concern that they have, because we've been kind of reporting that all week because we've been down here, because they were actually already having a lot of rain in the area for the couple days leading up to the storm, unrelated to Dorian, and so the ground was already saturated, and you throw on tropical storm force winds like you're talking about, it doesn't take anything for some of these trees to come down. But I think waves are going to be the biggest concern that they have here in any kind of storm surge and inland flooding, Chris.
And yeah, I'm going to show you some of the storm surge that we're expecting out of this, Ryan, as you're showing us that. You can see here a lot of yellow and blue and some orange on the map. This is where the storm surge is going to be taking place. We're saying generally 3 to maybe in some areas 6 feet above ground for the storm surge that's going to be rolling in, as there's just going to be battered with those waves and the wind here moving along the coastline. And that has prompted numerous advisories, watches, and warnings. Wes Peary, you've been tracking these all morning, and sometimes these warnings can be a little bit confusing here, whether you're inland or on the coast. You're going to break those down for us.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I find it interesting once we get that shot of the beach there and of that deck, people hanging out on their deck. The storm surge warning is for flooding of 3 to 5 feet above ground. So if that happens in that location, those folks' first story is going to be flooded. So obviously I hope they take the correct precautions to make sure that doesn't happen and that they're safe. But the entire Georgia coastline is underneath a storm surge warning. Up to 3 to 5 feet of flooding, that's above the ground, are possible as the storm makes its way through. The other thing, of course, is the winds. The wind speeds along the coast starting to pick up. Chris talked about that. 47-mile-per-hour gusts in that buoy just off the course, or just off the coast there. And there's 2 different areas that we're worried about. The darker red, that's a tropical storm warning. This is where gusts up to 70 miles per hour are possible. These pinks, every single county essentially that has a tropical storm warning, except for areas that are west of Brunswick, are also in a hurricane watch. That means that anytime the National Weather Service could think, oh, the track may have shifted a little bit, the winds are going to be a little bit stronger onshore, we'll go ahead and turn those tropical storm warnings into hurricane warnings. However, there are hurricane warnings in place for everybody along the coast and just off into the water. That's where hurricane force winds are expected. Could have gusts up to 103 miles per hour and seas 20 to 30 feet, and then that plays into the whole storm surge thing. After all, we've probably said this a million times already this year, but storm surge flooding will kill the most people, will kill about 50% of the deaths from weather-related incidents overall when it comes down to it. So storm surge, the biggest problem. These wind speed values are likely going to begin to pick up as we go into this evening. Probably this evening and then overnight tonight is going to be the most dangerous time for coastal residents. And we'll talk about how big the tides are going to be. Savannah is forecast to reach the 3rd highest tide it's ever been recorded, behind Matthew and behind Irma. And it's not too much of a difference. Irma got to 12 feet 2 inches. Matthew got to about 12.6, and then we're a little bit lower than that. But Savannah, no, Ryan's in Brunswick, but just up north there. Overnight tonight is going to be a very dangerous time as we approach maybe some record crests there. Chris.
Yeah, let's look at those wave heights. I just got a comment here from Kathy Smith. Says, what is going on in Tybee and Savannah? They keep skipping over them. Well, I hope you just saw what Wes was just showing you here with those watches and warnings that are in effect. We also have Angela saying, the way I feel is that they are lucky that it went from a 5 to a 2, so I would take it even 4, and it's not letting me read the rest. Sorry about that. So Jacqueline Hogg is saying prayers for everyone. Again, if you have any questions or comments for us, please feel free to do that. Let me show you these winds. I just looked up on the latest advisory. Those hurricane force winds extend up to 70 miles out from the center. That's what you see here in red. So the storm is more than 70 miles away from the coastline, so we're not feeling those hurricane force sustained winds along the Florida coast or the Georgia coast. But then you have the tropical storm force winds that extend 175 miles out from the center. So we are feeling that on the Georgia coast. That is in the yellow area. The orange shows winds of 58 miles an hour or greater. That would be the equivalent of a severe thunderstorm with winds that strong. So where you see the orange, that's the stronger tropical storm force winds. And then the yellow is 39 miles an hour up to about 57 mile an hour winds. So we're feeling that on the Georgia coast right there. And that is just going to keep moving inland. And then maybe tonight, this is later on tonight here where we're going to see those winds that are going to be during the evening hours a little stronger along the coast. And then here we are in South Carolina. The center of the storm is going to be close enough that we think that the South Carolina coastline is going to have hurricane force winds. It's going to kind of scour the coast there right along North Carolina. It is possible that that eye wall could make landfall. Maybe South Carolina, more likely up into North Carolina. We might have a brief landfall there of that eye wall into the North Carolina coastline, and then it quickly moves on up to the north and also to the east. Let me see if there are any other questions here coming in. Dana Marrier says the wind is getting heavier in Waycross, Georgia. That's down in South Georgia. There are also wind advisories in effect for parts of the area down into South Georgia. We do not have any wind advisories here, but I want to show you this map here if I can find it really quick of the winds with this system. I know I just showed you all of those. Let's go to Wes really quick to see what he has to show us right now. You've got some of the wave heights as well, right?
Yeah, the wave heights are getting a lot bigger, obviously, as a storm is not too far away. I think it's about 120, maybe 110 miles now away from Brunswick. So about 14, 15 feet wave heights right now, but this thing is going to make its turn all the way up towards Charleston. I would expect these to get a lot bigger. I mean, these buoys may be reading 20 to 30 feet wave heights later on this evening, because that is what the forecast from those hurricane warnings are going to be. So we'll be watching that. One thing that's kind of interesting, remember how the storm pretty much stalled over here over the Grand Bahama Island? This is what we're looking at is hurricane fuel or storm fuel. The thing sat for so long, it sapped up all of the fuel for storms in this area. So on the extremely off chance that another storm, another hurricane rides right through here within the next couple of days, it wouldn't have any fuel to pull from. So maybe that's a little bit good news, but it just displays how slow moving this thing was, in which it was essentially running out of fuel, at least on the storm side, but there was plenty of other things keeping it together. That thing just caused massive devastation over the Grand Bahama Island. Chris.
Yeah, Wes, you know, it's interesting when these storms are fed off of warm water, and then when the storms come through, it causes what is called upwelling, and it brings up that cooler water at the bottom, and that's what you're seeing there, the evidence of that storm that was just sitting and spinning there, and it brought that cool water up to the surface. Here's another look at the winds. Now, I wanted to show you this so you can see how this is working in relation to where we are. Can you see these 20 to 30 mile an hour winds? The yellow extends up into parts of central Georgia, including the Statesboro area over toward Vidalia, getting some of those stronger winds there that are below what we would classify as tropical storm force. Those stronger winds there along the coast. But what I want you to see here, as the storm, even tomorrow, this is at noontime tomorrow, is pulling up over into South Carolina, the flow around this is going to give us some gusty winds. Can you see the blue color right there? That's indicating winds 10 miles an hour or greater. We're thinking tomorrow we'll have 10 to 15, maybe 20 mile an hour winds, and at times some higher gusts. So that's indirectly part of the impacts of the storm as it continues moving on up. Then things will calm down for us as we go through the next couple of days. Wes, we also had another question here, and I already lost who it was who said it, so I'm sorry I'm not saying your name. They were wanting to know, what about the other storms that are out there? We have Tropical Storm Fernand that is out there. It looks like the eye wall at the latest advisory, they were saying that the eye wall has come over land right now, right there along the coast of Mexico. It is going to die out and just become an area of low pressure. You can see here's Texas, there's Brownsville, Corpus Christi. So this storm is just below Texas, just south of that. They may see a few showers there in parts of Texas. And also, we have this system that's way out here in the Atlantic. We showed you this last night when it developed. It was a tropical depression. Now it is a tropical storm, Gabrielle. And the good news with this, It looks like it's going to stay as a tropical storm, getting kind of strong tropical storm strength there up to about 65 miles an hour during the day on Sunday. But for now, it looks like this is going to stay as a tropical storm and also stay out to sea and not have any impacts on us. So there's Dorian. There you see a Fernand right here. And then we have another system in the central Atlantic right here that has a potential tropical system, but it is most likely going to move to the north and west. It's got a medium chance of developing into a tropical storm. Of course, there is Gabrielle. And then another one coming off the coast of Africa. Yesterday, this was in red, indicating a high chance that this would develop over the next 5 days into a tropical storm. Now they have it in orange, meaning it's a medium chance, but I want you to see the trajectory of this. It goes westward, so we'll have to keep a close eye on that to see whether or not that could make it to the islands or even into the United States. Wes?
The one thing that's been kind of interesting to watch over the next couple or over the past couple hours is the eye of the storm has actually gotten a little bit more organized. The storm itself has gotten a little bit more organized. That hasn't really been reflected from the wind speeds. The hurricane hunters are still finding the same wind speeds over the past 3 hours, but notice how this thing starts off. The eye really isn't very put together, but as it continues to swirl around, we get these little peaks of dark reds and a few spouts of purple there. What that is that's actually thunderstorms intensifying within the eye of the storm, and this thing is riding as the last little piece of the Gulf Stream, which is just warm water, and eventually it's actually going to get out of the Gulf Stream and go into somewhat cooler waters or waters that aren't quite as conducive for this thing to maintain itself or maybe even to intensify. So don't be surprised if maybe over the next couple of hours this storm maybe sees an increase in the wind speeds by 5 or 10 miles per hour. I don't think it's going to be strong enough to go back to the Category 3 strength, but maybe 5 miles per hour of an increase is really not that out of the question. Like I said, just look at these little darker purples pulsing here. That tells you it's intensified, at least within the core of the storm. Hopefully it does not, for the amount of damage this thing has already done to the Bahamas and parts of Florida. There's already trees falling over there, and possibly the damage it's going to do up in the Carolinas. Chris.
Hey, Andy Aiken says feeling more wind around Statesboro right now, and that kind of corresponds with the graphic that I just showed you a few minutes ago. Also, Wes, let's see here. We have a question from, well, I just lost who it was from, but I'll ask you this. She's asking, what are the chances that this could keep going west? And we both know that that most likely isn't going to happen.
Yeah, it's already kind of on its northward trajectory here. Honestly, it could keep on going north a little bit more than what this forecast model thinks, but we're very close to the forecast time here. So our margin of error, or our average error, is really small right now. You can see the cone is very, very skinny, and it gets larger as you go out with time. So we're pretty much done with that westerly motion. It's all about northwest, northerly, and then eventually northeasterly. So you obviously don't want it to go west, because that would make things worse for us here in Georgia and North Carolina. But there's an extremely small chance that it does move any more westerly than what has already moved now. Yeah,
and we're feeling pretty confident about that, just watching that potential brush with South Carolina and North Carolina. But those hurricane force winds, particularly into South Carolina. All right, I'm going to leave you with this. I want to show you the movement of this rain that's in association with this. And again, mainly along the Georgia coastline. A lot of people are thinking, are you kidding? This hurricane is this close to us, and we're not even going to get any rain out of it? No, we're on the dry side of this system. And not only is it dry, but it's also very hot. We have temperatures that are in the low and mid 90s right now. But here's that rain hugging the Georgia coastline, moving up to the Carolina coastline. The main impacts it will have is just what we told you a little while ago on the back side of this system. Some of those winds, breezy conditions coming in over the next couple of days. And then as you can see on Thursday, this pulls out, goes up to the north, takes the rain with it, but we'll still be dealing with those breezy conditions during the day on Thursday. And then as it continues moving on up toward the north and to the east and off the coast of the Carolinas, then those breezes are going to settle down for us, but we are going to stay dry back behind this system and also stay warm as well. I don't know if we still have Ryan with us or not. Let's do one last check with Ryan right now just to see if conditions have changed at all for him.
Still here, Chris. I think the thing we're seeing is we're actually seeing a lot bigger waves this time around. Some of these waves are really crashing in, and you can kind of see as they come in. I'm not a surfer, but it's you can always tell when you talk with surfers, you kind of look for the right wave, the right swell, and we're definitely seeing those. Sometimes you can kind of see it building up, and you just know this thing's going to be a monster and crash right into these rocks and flood the area. It has been kind of interesting. We haven't seen much rain. We're seeing a few sprinkles on us right now. Thankfully, that way we can be out here and not get too soaked. wind has been about the same. You'll see some gusts every once in a while, but nothing major there. Like this one looks like it's going to be a pretty big wave that crashes right up to it. We've had a couple that crash right up and almost make it to the road. And kind of look how deep we're talking about right here. I mean, that's ankle deep right now that these fly right up. And mind you, these rocks represent the end of the actual beach. The sand is supposed to end there, but that's not the case right now because the waves are so high. You can't even see where the actual sand starts at this place.
I wouldn't be surprised if
but if you've been watching our live pictures that have been up here the whole time, you'll see some huge waves that crash up onto it. What were you saying, Chris?
No, this is Wes. I was just saying that 3 to 5 feet for storm surge warning is probably occurring right now on the beach. I mean, that's probably about 3 feet deep. Does that sound about right from your estimation, Ryan?
Yeah, that's probably about right. And it's kind of increased really in the last, we've been doing this for about half an hour or so, and it really has kind of increased in the last half hour about how far. Whoa, that's a big one right there.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, y'all be careful. And now, Ryan, you and I and Christy and Tyson and Boise, and I'm looking at these comments here that we're getting in. We were in a category 5 last year with Michael, and we still know that we weathered that very well, and it was a difficult situation. But even with tropical storm force winds there, we know, as you're out there right there at the water, you know exactly what's going on with that storm, and we just want to assure people that you guys will take cover if needed, and that you'll be safe.
Yeah, and what I will say is there really is a humongous difference between the two, because when you're out in a Category 5 when it's hitting, you can't even stand. I mean, it's you got to hold on to a railing. This, I mean, you'll see people that are walking around. It's certainly windy. It's certainly strong winds, but you can really tell the difference for whenever you know that things are really, truly unsafe. I think the biggest danger for folks right now is if you're getting too close to the water and seeing this storm surge that's coming up. This is pretty high. And even about half an hour ago, the water you're seeing right here would still, after the wave came through, would crash. It would recede past the rocks. Now it is pretty stationary already past the rocks. So you can see the storm surge is already starting to build as these waves really increase. Like this looks like a pretty big one that's going to come here and crash into these.
Yeah, that's the thing, Ryan. A lot of times you can see them as they're coming, and there comes that one right there, right beyond there.
Yeah.
Let's look at this one that's coming over right there. That's about to hit those rocks and come over those rocks. There you go. Yeah, you can see those things coming to you. So y'all be safe there. In fact,
that's a pretty big one.
Robert Victorine,
yeah, thank you.
Robert Victorine says those waves are very scary. Kathy Raisin says the wind is picking up.
Yeah.
We also have Rich Moore asking what is the estimated wind for Savannah and the Hilton Head area. Let me show you this, and then we're going to sign off after this. Again, I want you just to understand, a lot of people are looking at these maps and saying, oh, well, the eye's not going to make landfall. It's not going to be an issue. But again, this is a very large storm in size. Even though the strength of the storm yesterday was weakening, the storm was growing in size, meaning it was impacting more people. So the winds in association with the hurricane extending about 50 to 60 miles out from the center of the storm, and then the tropical storm force winds extend about 175 miles out from the center. So we're going to be seeing in the Brunswick area down to South Georgia, there are those winds that'll be tropical storm force winds. I do think that moving up closer to Savannah, that we will see some winds that are going to be a little stronger, maybe 30 to 60 mile an hour winds there, maybe even some gusts that are going to be higher than that as the center of the storm gets a little bit closer. And then the hurricane force winds are going to be there along the South Carolina coastline as it brushes the Carolina coast into North Carolina as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If we did not get to your specific comments or questions, we're sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and log off. We've got to get ready for our 5 o'clock newscast in just a little bit. But meanwhile, Sam and I are in here. Wes, we're all here monitoring this situation, and we'll have more posts on social media for you, and then team coverage tonight at 5 on 11 Alive News. Thanks for watching.